At the turn of the century, a new medium was taking the world by storm: the invention of the radio. This new medium was groundbreaking and soon infiltrated almost every American's home by 1947. These bulky radio cabinets were the equivalent of a modern-day television set, in the fact that the entire family would gather around to listen to their favorite radio broadcasts. As the number of stations grew, so did the issue of categorizing them. A 4-letter identification system was introduced. The letters N and A were given to military stations, but K and W were assigned out for commercial use. Radio stations east of the Mississippi River had to start their stations with W, and stations west of the Mississippi with K. A far cry from the original vacuum tube sets of the 30s, modern-day radios can be found just about everywhere. The reason I'm telling you this is because back in 2013, a 4chan user posted a very disturbing audio recording of a supposed radio hijacking. Now, I can't find the original 4chan post for whatever reason, but the next best thing is this article, which has the citation of what the original poster said. It states, "The weird stuff starts about 16 seconds in. Around 1995, I was about 15. I used to stay up late in my room listening to the radio on a boombox with an integrated tape recorder. I'd dial through the stations, and when I heard something interesting, I'd hit the record for a while, then move on. One night, I came across this. I don't think this was the beginning of the broadcast, but I caught a lot of it. Right at the end, an announcer says that the station I was tuned into was WKCR, 89.9, New York. There are a bunch of names and dates in there, but I've never run into anything else like this. What you're about to hear is relatively disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised."
Like 1988, John Vernon, son of John Senior Maryland, brother of Captain Chris, step of Thunder December 21st, 1988, Barry Valentino, son of Barry Senior Eugene, brother of Scott, Mark, and Lisa Ann's friend, my friend. February 1985, Frank Oppenheimer, brother of Robert, husband of Jackie Emily, father of Michael, our friend. In 1987, Henrietta Graham, mother of Ian, in-law Sally, my friend. March 17, 1988, Edward McGellis, brother of William, Jim, May, and Peggy, father of Shirley, Abby, and Geraldine. April 1988, Ruth Manani, wife of Barbara, friend of Bob and me. October 1988, Morgan Shoemake, father of Barbara, husband of Elsie, Barbara's dad. August 22nd, 1985, Irene McGellis de Tullio, sister of Millie, Margaret, D'Antoni, Ida, Dominic, Nair, Scat, Elvira, and Joe, wife of William, mother of Mary Ann, grandmother of Liz and Billy, me. July 4th, 1987, Peter Gunlock, son of Robert, step of Kay, brother of Bob, Karen, Cindy, and Mary, husband of Lisa, father of Shady, Mocha, Rick, and Lucy, my brother-in-law.
So let's break down what we just heard. In the recording, classical music is playing before a really loud, high-pitched squealing distorts the audio. Heavy breathing can be heard as well as a brief fading into the squealing. Further in the recording, a woman's voice is reading snippets of obituaries, one of them being someone who died in the Pan Am Flight 103 crash. The loud gibberish becomes whispers of more names and then gibberish. After this, the station levels out and seems to return back to normal. Then the host apologizes for the music being delayed, and that's where it ends. Doing some digging online led me to finding a rough translation of some of the mumbled garbage we heard throughout the video. February 1985, Frank Oppenheimer, brother of Robert, husband of Jackie, their father of Michael, our friend. August 22nd, 1985, Incoherent Tullio, sister of Millie, Margaret, Dominic, and Joe, wife of William, mother of Mary, Lisa, and Billy. July 4th, 1987, Peter Dunwell, son of Robert, husband of Lisa. March 17th, 1988, Edward McGellis, Incoherent, Edward's brother, William, June, Peggy, father of Julie, heart attack. April 1988, Rupert, Incoherent. October 1988, Morgan, incoherent, father of Barbara, husband of Elise, Barbara's dad, kidney failure. November 1988, John Byrne, son of John, brother of Catherine and Chris. December 21st, 1988, Barry Valentino, son of Barry Sr., brother of Scott, Mark and Lisa, and his friend, my friend. May 1987, Henrietta Graham, mother of incoherent, my friend. Sure, these are interesting names and dates, but what does it all mean? Well, for starters, August 22nd, 1985 was the date of an air disaster. British Air Tours Flight 28M caught fire on the tarmac shortly before takeoff at the Manchester airport. The route it was supposed to take was to Corfu International Airport in Greece. The aircraft, a 737 nicknamed River Orin, was flown by British Air Tours, a wholly owned subsidiary of the British Airways. It had 131 passengers and 6 crew in the manifest. During the takeoff roll, a loud thump was heard and the takeoff was aborted. An engine failure had generated a fire, and the captain ordered evacuation. There were 82 survivors. Most of the deaths were due to smoke inhalation. However, 55 passengers burnt up in the fuselage before they ever left the ground. As for specific names, well, I found no correlation, nor could I find any obituaries regarding any of the people named in the broadcast. The only other transcription that had anything meaningful was another aviation disaster. Barry Valentino is listed and appears to be a victim of the Pan Am Flight 103 Lockerbie. Pan Am Flight 103 was a regularly scheduled Pan Am transatlantic flight from Frankfurt to Detroit via London and New York City. On December 21st, 1988, N739PA, the aircraft operating the transatlantic leg of the route was destroyed by a bomb, killing all 243 passengers and 16 crew, in what became known as the Lockerbie bombing. Large sections of the aircraft crashed onto a residential street in Lockerbie, Scotland, killing 11 people on the ground. With a total of 270 people killed, it is the deadliest terrorist attack in the history of the United Kingdom. As eerie as the WKCR hijacking is, there is some skepticism in the community. Some people have pointed out that the woman reading the names and the host sound kind of familiar, but what do you think?
You're tuned to WKCR FM New York, 89.9 on your dial. Colombian music is running a little late. It will be starting in a few minutes.
Also, that the audio sounds way too clear to be from a cassette tape and converted to modern equipment. In any case, it's still a mystery that has not been solved, and a creepy one at that. But signal intrusions aren't that uncommon. Anyone with an FM transmitter could theoretically set up their own pirate radio station or hijack another. Although incredibly illegal, an average Joe could pull this off. Television hijackings are an even greater stunt and very rare. Mainly because television is the preferred medium and gets a lot more views than radio. However, that hasn't deterred various people from attempting it. The Max Headroom incident that occurred November 22, 1987 is one such event. On a late Sunday night in Chicago during WGN-TV's 9 o'clock news, the screen went black suddenly, then displayed a person wearing a Max Headroom mask and sunglasses, accompanied by a buzzing sound and swaying in front of a rotating corrugated metal panel that mimicked Max Headroom's geometric background effect. The hijack lasted 28 seconds and was stopped after engineers at WGN switched the broadcast frequency of their link to the transmitter atop the John Hancock Center. Following the incident, sports anchor Dan Roan commented, "Well, if you're wondering what happened, so am I," and joked that the computer running the news took off and went wild. He then repeated his report of the day's Chicago Bears game. Later that night, during a broadcast of the Doctor Who serial Horror of Fang Rock on local PBS station WTTW, the signal was again interrupted by video of the Max Headroom impersonator, this time with distorted audio. Let's take a listen, shall we?
That is stupid. You should talk often with the old ones of your tribe. That is the only way to learn.
I'll get you a hot drink, miss.
Oh, I've seen some dry clothes.
CBS. Oh, my files. Oh, I just made a giant masterpiece for all the greatest world newspaper nerds. My brother is wearing the other one. But it's dirty. Where'd you get footprints on it?
As far as I can tell, a massive electric shock. He died in...
The signal takeover lasted 90 seconds. WTTW, which maintained a transmitter atop the Sears Tower, found that its engineers were unable to stop the hijacker due to no one being on at the time. According to station spokesman Anders Yocom, technicians monitoring the transmission from WTTW headquarters attempted to take corrective measures but couldn't. By the time our people began looking into what was going on, it was over, he told the Chicago Tribune. WTTW was able to find copies of the hijackers' telecast with the help of Doctor Who fans who had been taping the show that night. Well over 32 years later, the pirates were never found. It still remains a mystery as to who was behind the Max Headroom incident and the WKCR incident. Perhaps we may never know, but one thing is certain, they are spooky as hell.